We're talking financial independence, wealth development, and quality of life. This is Feed Your Finances with hosts Kyler.Nichols and Austin Mielczarek. Let's get it kicked off. Kyler, I want to get to know you. Where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up in central Indiana, went to Plainfield High School, and attended the University of Indianapolis, where I studied finance. Right now, I currently work in the mortgage industry, and yeah.
So you said you're in the mortgage industry. What do you do?
Yeah, so I help people establish a game plan when it comes to purchasing a home or some scenarios refi. A little bit of planning can go a long way whenever you're looking to make a big purchase, like buying a house.
Awesome. And, so you're in the mortgage industry. Where are you headed, you think, in the next maybe 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I'm in love with this thing. There's always something to learn and strive to meet. So just trying to outdo myself each year and meet goals and produce for my branch.
Awesome. I know it's kind of an open-ended question, but what would you say is the biggest challenge that you personally face today?
Oh, man. Just realizing that you can't get everything you want overnight and staying the course and making sound decisions along the way. You can have some pretty big dreams or aspirations. You just got to know you got to do everything you can day by day and not expect it to happen right away.
Okay, so it sounds like, if I'm hearing that correctly, you can set the big goal, but you have to, within that, set your small goals and your milestones in order to achieve that?
100%, and depending on who you listen to about goal setting, that's pretty much it. So you have the big overreaching goal, and then you break that down into action steps and mini goals along the way to get you there eventually.
Cool. What are a few things that you hope that this podcast does for the audience?
Yeah, so I really want to simplify things for people, know that they can reach out to us to elaborate more on a certain topic. A lot of people act as if the things that we do each and every day are super elaborate or super complicated, when in reality, just sitting down and really thinking over a concept can do so much for you in the long run. And there's a lot of myths out there that aren't the best way to build wealth, and I think if we have the opportunity to shed some light on that and help point people in the right direction, everybody's going to be winning.
Yeah, and I kind of want to springboard off one of the things you said there, financial myths. There's a lot of gurus out there. What would you say is one of the biggest financial myths that you want to debunk that you might have been told in childhood or in school or something like that?
Yeah, so we're brought up to think that debt is bad, all debt. Don't get me wrong, consumer debt is bad, credit card debt, pretty bad. However, you can use debt to grow wealthier, and that's what wealthy people know. And if you can borrow at a very low interest rate and put money to work elsewhere to grow your assets, grow your wealth, you're going to be a lot better off in the long run.
Awesome. And what is one thing that you wish you'd known earlier in your life or your career relating to finances?
That's tough. Just how easy it is to start investing. You don't have to be worth a lot or have a bunch of money in the bank. You can get an investment account started with as little as $25, and that's just going to spring forward you into having other ideas and thinking outside the box when it comes to investing or putting money to work elsewhere. It's just really, once you get started, it just gets your mind going and you start thinking in ways that you wouldn't have previously and come up with ideas and bouncing back with other people that are like-minded and grow relationships like you and I have, All right, going to reverse the roles here. Tell me about your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in Wisconsin. My wife's originally from Greenwood, Indiana, and she moved up to Wisconsin for one winter. Had enough of that. I had enough of it too after about 20 years or so of shoveling myself out of my driveway every morning. So I was more than happy to move down here to central Indiana. Did that about 5 years ago or so. My background was in business-to-business sales, and it was really involved in a lot of high-level marketing campaigns across the country in the U.S. here. Traveled a lot for work. Eventually one day got sick of it and decided to get my real estate license.
So more or less you're self-employed then. How's that feel?
Yeah, so it was big for me. I kind of always knew and thought that at some point the goal was going to be my own boss. It's great at sometimes, you might think that, oh, you're self-employed, you have a lot of freedom, but I find, at times that my boss is actually probably one of the hardest people to work for. So it's pretty demanding. A lot of people that know me and work closely with me know that you're going to get an email from me at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because my hamster wheel never stops spinning. Thankful that my wife puts up with that, but it's definitely has its pros and cons.
So what are your goals here the next 5 to 10 years?
Yes, I have a pretty strong goal to be more or less financially independent or retired by 30. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to work. I think I'm a workaholic and I'll always work in some respects, but my goal is to really be able to make some more gangster financial decisions. A lot of people, my biggest passion is helping other people realize that wealth isn't, and I don't just mean money, but when we talk about wealth as, the amount of time that your assets can support you in your lifestyle, it's a passion of mine. And so being able to leverage out my own personal wealth to not only pass down generational wealth, but at the same time also help other people that need a little bit of a guiding hand or a stepping stone to get to that for themselves. That's kind of where I see myself becoming more of a wealth advisor, so to speak.
So this podcast is going to be a good medium for that to start up. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's my exact goal with it, is exactly that.
What would you advise someone to do that maybe has no investing experience or has very little money to put to work? What should be step one for them?
Yeah, so a topic that I actually feel I have a lot of authority to speak on because it was kind of sad. I bought a house in 2017, and when I looked at my personal financial statement that went along with that loan application, I was worth negative $6,000. A crazy thing to think about. My debts far outweighed my assets, and that said, in just 3-4 short years here, that's a whole different story. It's completely flipped. So my advice and what I personally did was I didn't make a crazy amount of money in that time. I really evaluated what am I spending money on, and I started to think, and Graham Stephan, famous YouTuber, talks a lot about this too. You got to think in future dollars. Do I want this $1 McChicken today, or in 30 years with compounding invested properly, I could have $20. And when you start to think like that, you stop spending money on stupid things, and you put every dollar to work, which in turn just starts to compound. And really, the results that I've seen in just 3 short years or so have been kind of insane.
All right, pairing off of that, what's one financial myth that you want to bust for people listening to the show?
I get really hung up on Dave Ramsey telling people, debt is bad, and you always need to have a 15-year mortgage and things like that. Especially today, where you see mortgage interest rates, in the high 2s, low 3s, and we look at that compared to inflation indexes and things like that. Without getting too into the weeds, more or less, if you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage right now, you're kind of getting free money, and you can invest your capital, your difference, into other things that will outpace that debt with a gain. So I would say the biggest thing for me, myth-wise, is that debt is bad, and that low interest rate fixed debt should be avoided if you can get shorter terms. My opinion is if your mortgage is a 30-year fixed at 3%, you should take the full 30 to pay that off.
All right, don't hate on our boy Ramsey too much. What are some things that you hope this podcast accomplishes for people?
Yeah, my biggest thing is just showing people that I'm 24 years old. I had a negative net worth 3 years ago. That's not the case today. And so, if you're feeling hopeless or helpless when it comes to finances and not knowing a lot, just know that I didn't go to college. Nobody taught me how to do any of this. There's great books and great resources out there that kind of teach you this, but I want to bring it to a new medium. I really want a lot of the folks that are out there that I'm friends with on Facebook and stuff like that I know are interested in this, but just don't know where to start in learning. I want to provide this as a resource to them, that here's a way to kickstart some ideas and go research some of these topics. And if you hear of something, maybe it's real estate, maybe you want to get into rental properties, maybe it's index funds and you want to get into investing in some of that. Maybe it's individual stocks. Whatever your vehicle is, I want to provide a platform to discuss some of those things so that you start to get a little bit of knowledge, figure out kind of what you want to do, and can just platform off of that to go execute on it and be financially independent.
All right, I have my answer, but what is one book that you've read that just blew your mind and that you would advise someone to go pick up today?
I don't want to go with the cliche Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but...
Well, that's mine.
You almost have to. I mean, that book is a total mindset shift. I don't know. Yeah, you have to go with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's no other book.
Well, and we can capitalize on some of those main points in following episodes, but whenever you really start thinking about the assets that you acquire and have and compared to the liabilities or your equity, your personal balance sheet, it just gets you thinking in a whole different way. So
it does, and your net worth really matters a lot, particularly your net worth and your personal financial statement, especially when you get to a point where you're self-employed, really matter a lot toward how you scale and grow.